In this Democratic primary, there are a lot of people running and voters have had a lot of options, but what they haven't had is someone incredibly disconnected from the realities of working class Americans who believes that billions of dollars can stand in for a lifetime of activism and having the right positions. But maybe now, Michael Bloomberg might be running. He apparently is prepared to enter presidential races before, but never actually put his name on a state ballot. Now, he's apparently, because of how early you have to do it, getting on the ballot for Alabama, indicating not definitely he's gonna run, but he's taking it pretty seriously. So it's an exciting day for the Democratic primary. Brett Ehrlich.
I mean, come on, dude. This process will be one of the more infuriating things to watch if you are not working currently in DC or New York on a news show or for a newspaper.
Yeah.
Because everything I've seen around it has just been the most pure embodiment of what's wrong with media bubbles since watching Trump rallies. Like that's the other side of it. This is the version on the left, I guess, of not the Trump rally.
Not on the right.
But not on the, but for this, it's people saying, there's so many people right now in media who are like, perfect, got it. Possible solution, white knight coming to the rescue.
Well, why don't we demonstrate the principle that you're talking about right now? Because many people responded to this announcement by at first tweeting "Okay Boomer," which quickly became "Okay Bloomer," which is just perfect.
That's funny.
But he does have a fan, and that fan has a show, and here's a little bit from that show.
Guns and climate. Who's to his left?
Well, Beto was to his left on guns, but he's not going to be a factor any longer.
Right, I mean, so.
Also the governor of
You can make an argument that
Bloomberg has embraced the Green New Deal.
I don't think he's embraced that. I agree.
So that's one area where he actually is more to the center than she is.
You know, in the smoke-filled room, you'd say, on paper, Bloomberg has the right balance of what you want to win a broad election. Maybe not a deep election, but if you're trying to win the ex-suburban Republican, which, by the way, Michael Bloomberg's an ex-suburban, arguably an ex-urban Republican. And at the same time, you care about these core progressive issues like guns and climate. It ain't just somebody buying an election.
No, that's exactly what it is. Well, first of all, I guess it's not because he's not gonna win, but it is an attempt to buy an election. So Chuck Todd was speaking sort of longingly, hypothetically, but longingly about smoke-filled rooms and believed that, like, yeah, we're all just waiting for someone who embraces core progressive values, and that person is a former Republican, current billionaire.
The smoke-filled room is bad. The Democratic Party supporters had riots because of smoke-filled rooms. That was back when you had a party apparatus that said, him.
Yeah.
Always the man, him. He is our choice, and the reason for that is they never believed that the riffraff in their party was competent or capable to choose a candidate that was viable in an election. And also, I guess I have to restate my opinion because of the silence that met Chuck Todd when he was like, "We got an answer, right?" And everyone was just like, and he's like, "Who's more progressive than Bloomberg with the climate?" And then someone said he doesn't support the Green New Deal, which is just the answer to that question. And Chuck says words that seem like he is ceding that point, but then proceeds as if he hasn't ceded that point. Yeah, but he goes right back to it. Oh, and then he tries to get this ex-suburban voter. No, man, he is a New York City billionaire mayor. And what Trump is able to get around in terms of what you would assume would be affiliated with a billionaire from New York, Trump gets around that by acting like an idiot, like a just around the water cooler kibitzing moron.
Yeah.
But Bloomberg is boring. Bloomberg is wildly, very boring, and that's what's frustrating is that Chuck Todd doesn't see that. He talks about it being on paper. He talks about the smoke-filled room, but on paper, if you're saying that I want to run some kind of corporate moderate against Donald Trump, like we already have the data for that. Hillary Clinton lost. And all these things, when I say it's frustrating about watching the media talk it out, the media says like, we got to get a viable moderate, just someone less right than Trump. And it's like, we tried it and it failed.
Well, and also, if you're looking out to the primary, I know he's talking about the general election there, but if you're looking to the primary, it's not like there's nobody who wants a centrist Democrat. There are people. Biden is still inexplicably doing well. He's either in first or occasionally in second in the polling. And Amy Klobuchar gets 2% or whatever. But together, Warren and Bernie get a way bigger percentage of the electorate. So it's not like there's tons of people just calling out for a bigger centrist or a richer centrist or an older centrist.
There is a fetishization of this concept of we got a bigger billionaire than you.
Oh,
so
yeah,
Lizzo
totally,
is just gushing about it right now. Oh, Trump, we're gonna beat Trump because Trump's gonna talk trash against this guy, but it's gonna be different because this person is richer than Trump and it'll drive him nuts. Counterpoint to that is what Elizabeth Warren has been doing with billionaires. The idea that the mainstream media is like, oh my God, Bill Gates doesn't like Elizabeth Warren. Let's report on that, let's go with that. Elizabeth Warren has done a very wise thing. It's the same thing that Bernie Sanders did in the last go around and continues to do, which is like, listen, if I have billionaires hating me, as much as I don't like people to hate me, that's a good group of people to have hate me.
I welcome their hate.
Yeah, it's good. What, do people have a positive association with billionaires? Most don't.
Yeah, I would say most, yes. And so let's just jump to, Donald Trump was gonna obviously say something about this guy. And I agree that having a bigger billionaire doesn't win you the election, but I also agree with Chris Cillizza that Trump will lose his mind about it.
He'll lose his mind. But
so he said, little Michael will fail. He thought about it really hard and he came up with Little as the nickname. It's a new one. Little Michael will fail. He's not going to do well, but I think he's going to hurt Biden actually. There's nobody I'd rather run against than Little Michael. He's an alpha male. That's a strong man right there. You should pattern your masculinity and teach your children to be more like Trump when they grow up. So that's what he said. But why is he running? There's a lot of explanations. This is probably not actually one, but it is interesting that the more and more talk there is about the wealth tax and what effect it would have on billionaires, and then all of a sudden Bloomberg is running. I mean, that Bill Gates thing has been all over the place. In any event, substantively, if Bernie's wealth tax was law last year, Bloomberg would have owed over $4 billion more in taxes. So it would have had a big effect on him. And under Warren's math, Bloomberg would have paid a little bit more than $3 billion more in wealth taxes each year. But the site that she has produced so that you can calculate how it would affect you says, good news, you'll still be extraordinarily rich, which is true. And so Bill Gates is attacking her. Anna has been having a lot of fun playing the tape of that billionaire crying on TV. There is this, the billionaires strike back thing going on right now.
Yeah, and that's a loser. The billionaires crying over being over being still billionaires in the wake of all this.
Yeah,
that's not a winner for them.
No,
and any win that billionaires can claim for being philanthropic, at least from a policy standpoint in terms of not just doing like outside philanthropic work, which is great and I welcome it, but like changing how much you pay your employees. And by that I mean Jeff Bezos changing to $15 an hour. He did that because of pressure from progressive candidates.
From Bernie Sanders.
From Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna getting out there and saying, here's what's wrong with the economy. There's a wild wealth disparity. Here's how we can fix it. And we need to do it with you guys changing your policy.
Yeah.
So here is the theoretical and here is the practical. Make a practical change to aid this theoretical goal. And that happened. And it wasn't because of billionaires being like, I want to be your friend without any pressure.
Exactly.
It is because their invisible hand of the market was forced by a very visible hand in Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna.
I agree. And I mean, we will see how Michael Bloomberg does if he does enter it. I don't think it's going to end up being the best use of his money. I'll say that. I think I feel pretty confident in saying that. That we've already seen that with Tom Steyer and Howard Schultz. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.